Welcome back to yet another episode of the Product Uncensored show. I hope you have been having a great week. And remember, despite how grim things look, do not let COVID keep you down. All right. I'm your host, Colin Pell, and this is episode 18. We have a very special guest that I'm going to get into really quickly. But of course, we have to go through the house rules. So here are the 4 important things that you should know before we start. Number one, I actually write at www.productuncensored.com. If you like our videos, we are on YouTube. And don't forget to like and also subscribe. Click on the notification bell so that every time we have new videos, you will be notified immediately. If you like our audio content, we are available on all major podcasting platforms. And finally, if you've been following this show for a while and you would like to support this show, there will be a link in the description for both the video and audio where you can buy me a coffee. It's purely voluntary, and if there's something you don't want to do, that's fine. So, house rules out of the way, let's get this show on the road. Today's guest, of course, is special. He's a product leader who's most recently been seen at the Chief Product Officer Virtual Conference. He is the co-founder of Ekrut, and very, very interestingly, he has worked at Tesla. Don't worry, we will get into all the good stuff. But for now, I would like to introduce to all of you Niko Questera. Welcome to the show, Niko.
Hi, Colin. Hi, everyone.
Hey, so it's really good to have you on the show. And I think we're going to have lots of good stuff to talk about. So I was talking about, how you worked at Tesla, and you're the co-founder of Ekrut, and we're going to go through all of that. But maybe just as an introduction, you can probably let people know a little bit about yourself and maybe where you grew up all the way until you went to university.
Sure. Yeah, my name is Niko Questera. Born and raised Jakarta. Then went to Malaysia for 2 years to spend my first half of a degree in Taylor College, Subang Jaya. And then I transferred over to Indiana, Purdue University to finish my degree. Spent my first 5 years of professional career in it's called Stanley Electric. It's one of the Honda's sister companies working on the exterior lightings. And then the final 3 years in the US before I decided to return home. That's where I work for Tesla. And right now, spend my most of my time in Ekrut. It's a tech recruitment platform in Jakarta, Indonesia.
All right. So that was literally the 1 minute rundown. Fantastic summary. 100 points for conciseness and also preciseness. So we want to talk a little bit about your education, right? So for those of you who didn't hear, Niko actually studied in Taylor's College, right, which is in Malaysia. And for me, this is the first guest on the show who's actually studied in Malaysia. So it's like, wow, this is really, really interesting. So can you tell me a little bit more about why you decided to go to Taylor's College?
Yeah, I was privileged enough that my parents wanted to send me over outside Indonesia to basically study abroad for my degree. And at that point, I had in mind that I wanted to go to United States, but my parents kind of prefer me to go to the Australia. That's where my older brother already was. And so I decided, well, what if I just go to Malaysia? There was this school called Taylor College, well, NNT at that moment, who offered somewhat, we call that like American degree transfer program.
Yep.
It's a program where people can just study there for the first a year and a half or 2 years and have luxury to transfer over to multiple partners. Some of them are in the US, some of them are in Australia, UK, and so on. So my parents kind of said yes because it kind of saved us money, about 70% off if I just started my fresh man year in the country, like in the US or in the Australia. So he said, it's cool. So that's how kind of decided to go to Malaysia, and then over time, my parents kind of changed his mind, and then he said, "Okay, I guess it's okay that if you want to go to America." So that's why. Which is a cool
Mm.
stuff. It's not a program. It's not normal. It's not a normal degree program that I would find in Indonesia. Probably if it's available in Indonesia, I would stay here. But definitely really cool. Love Malaysia. Love the food. Love the people, and would go there anytime soon if possible.
Mm. When you were studying in Taylor's, was cyber cafe still a thing there? Was it still
Cyber.
the rage?
Well, Counter Strike, yes, definitely was still a hit.
Okay, okay, yeah, and just for more FYI than anything, your name is actually the same as one of the big stars in Counter Strike today. So
Oh, really?
yeah, yeah. So every time I say your name, it feels funny because I feel like I'm talking to like that Counter Strike guy because I don't know anyone called Nico in real life. So like that's the
Yeah.
association that I make. But anyway, anyway, that's totally not related. So okay, interesting that you chose Malaysia, and then via Malaysia you went to Purdue University, and you decided to do science and electrical engineering, minoring in economics. And then you went on to actually work for Honda, as you were saying, and Tesla as well. So the curious part that I want to know is, are you an automotive fan? Are you in love with cars? I mean, it sounds very specific, right? That you decided to do work in Honda and then Tesla.
Hmm. Um, Maybe there are two perspectives. I guess if you're kind of into like spiritual, I guess my dad has been a car man in Germany, where he studied and worked for over 20 years in it's kind of old style Formula One in Germany at that time. There wasn't Formula One or two or three or EV at that point, and he returned home, and then he was still doing some car business over until recently, before he retired. So on one side, I get some gene over, kind of transferred over.
Mm,
That's where I do like cars. I do like cool cars. I do like motorcycles, and yeah, watching like Formula Ones and stuff. On the other side, at that point, there wasn't really too many options for me to choose. As international students, you usually have limited options in
mm,
terms of the
employment.
companies who are willing to sponsor somebody. Um, and I was electrical engineering, as you said earlier. And I was focusing on the hardware stuff, which is more like an analog. And at that point, I didn't know that the computer science and the coding stuff are actually getting hyped.
Hmm.
So I didn't get a chance. I didn't get to actually work in Silicon Valley from my when I graduated. So I guess everything kind of merged. My passion, my background from family, and also one of the companies that actually offered me the first time is also in automotive. So yep.
Okay, so it was more coincidental that very nicely merged with both your passion and what your dad used to do.
Mm-hmm.
Was the plan always to after you finish studying at Purdue to continue living in the States or working in the States?
Yeah, definitely. I think that's the only goal, for most immigrants or for most international students who already spend some amount of money over to the US to actually do something for themselves, get some experience, which I think the only thing that mattered, which is my work experience in the US. I moved cities quite a bit. I moved from Indiana to Ohio, and then I spent some internship in Texas, and also back to Indiana again, and then I finally flew over to California. So I got all these friends, or people just call it networking these days,
Mm,
kind of scattered, and I didn't get a chance to actually spend more time or have really, 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 really close friends on every single state. Um, but I never regret that I actually moved and kind of got a chance to work with so many different people, different
Mm,
cultures, and also different CEOs, which have different visions and craziness or uniqueness, yeah, per se.
mm.
So, yeah, cool stuff over there.
Yeah. When you were studying at Purdue, right? Did you learn? Oh, sorry. Maybe I should phrase it differently. When you were studying, or even when you first started working, how interested were you in the tech scene in the US at that time? You know, the Bay was all the talk about. You know, Silicon Valley, because '99 would have been the dot-com boom. Yeah. How involved were you during your student years, especially?
No, wasn't really involved. Tesla had been my dream company even from 2010. So I had to wait about 4 or 5 years. Applied hundreds of roles before I got a chance for my first interview.
Mm-hmm,
I messed it up, and then I keep applying, and then I got another chance on the following year in 2015, where I finally nailed it, the interview part, and then I got into my dream company. So to answer that, no, I've been
okay.
kind of focused on just one or two companies at that point, either Tesla, or I was into kind of Google because everybody kept talking about Google. Maybe
Hmm.
no Facebook yet; it was still Friendster. So yeah, Google really cool. If I got into it, that's cool. But number one was still Tesla.
Tesla.
But
Okay. So let's talk about Tesla then. What is it that made you want to join Tesla so much? Was it because of who Elon Musk was, or was it because of the cars that they were making, the technology that they were using in the cars? What was it that gave? Because I can hear it when you say, "Oh, I wanted to join Tesla." For you, it was like a dream come true, right? So, what was the dream? Yeah, what was it about Tesla that made you really want to join?
The cars, definitely. Love the cars, and I think the company was passionate and unique enough that it's not enough for somebody really good in something to build Tesla, and it's not enough for somebody who is really, really good and who is really, really, really rich to build Tesla, because they will be so risk adverse and not building it anyway, because it's a high risk and not seeing any rewards at the end of the tunnel. It's also not enough for somebody that's like really genius, really rich, and also like really a risky person. It has to be something X factor that I would call the craziness in somebody, like ready to be different, ready to fail, um, and just be freaking different in everything you do. Like you're not watching like competitor analysis is not in any Tesla dictionary. Like, hey, come on, man, look at that. Like GM was doing that. We have to do that. No, that kind of language, that kind of phrase never came out in any meeting or any people's mouth. Um, I just love it. I just love the idea of actually being different, because I believe yes, everybody is different. So
Mm,
at that point, that's kind of the only hardware is probably being affected also by my major, which is I
mm.
was kind of in the hardware scene. So at that point, the one of the coolest hardware automotive industries or companies was Tesla.
Okay, okay. So, another curious question from me. When you were at Tesla, did you ever meet Elon Musk?
Yeah, yeah, quite a few times. I mean, every month at least, he would come to factory. I mean, at that point, people call it manufacturing hell, production hell. Um, so Elon Musk had to come to the factory and then kind of monitoring the productions, the processes, and stuff. So he had to come pretty often just to make sure all the numbers kind of getting hit for
Okay.
for the investors.
Did you ever have the opportunity to speak to him personally outside of, just watching him at the same location?
I don't know if I have to call it fortunately or
I hope it's not
fortunately no.
unfortunately.
Fortunately no.
Oh,
Fortunately
fortunately,
no.
no. Oh,
Fortunately no. Is this not something people usually or internally, people, it's not like talking to Elon like face to face. It's not something you would proud of. um
Oh,
s- yeah, it's usually something either like
bad.
really really bad actually happened to your line. At that point we just call it line because I handle production line,
Mm, mm.
or your production line actually went down for over. Tesla has this really unique notification mechanism where Collins line number 2 is down for 5 minutes. Your manager will be notified, and then your manager will of course gonna notify you, dude, your line is down, and you're gonna try your best to try to fix things and then try to find out, to make things run again.
Mm.
The first 15 minutes, usually the senior manager will be notified. Hey dude, hey Colin's boss, what happened to your Colin? This is sucks, come on, get things run again. And then usually like the first 30 minutes, the director usually will be notified. Hey senior managers, Colin, this is sucks, everything sucks, please get things run again. And then finally, and then I don't have to mention all the hierarchy thing, and finally after an hour and a half Elon will be notified. So at the end, when that happened, usually
Okay.
like it got real.
Okay, so in your case, you never had to meet him under those circumstances. Yeah, but the reason why I ask is because I'm sure everyone. I mean, Elon is like he's known all over the world, and everyone talks about him, but not everyone has had the opportunity to work for him or work with him. You're definitely the first person I know who worked in Tesla. Yeah, so I was always curious to know, like, do you have any information about this person called Elon? Is he the same as he is on TV? Is he the same as he is on Joe Rogan's podcast? Or is he like a very different person when he's on the factory floor?
I think it's very similar. He stuttered. He also someone who would, let's see, he don't really shout. He doesn't really like shout at people. I mean, as you know, if you read the autobiography where Elon was uh, was bullied, right, when he was a boy. So he's not that kind of person who kind of I don't know, make you miserable. But he knows he got um, some vice presidents who can do it for him, per se. So it's really cool. I just I don't think it's right to say that he is actually nice to all people, because I've seen him like fired people on the spot also. But nevertheless, he is someone that the entire company, probably including the CTO, looked up to.
Mm.
And it's difficult. It's difficult for probably for every company to have everybody look up to their CEO. Sometimes the CEO messed up, made some mistakes.
Mm.
Um, I don't know, underpay somebody, so they hate the CEO, and for some reasons don't like the products. That's one of the cultures that I wanted to kind of build in any companies that I work for. From that point, like, how do you build a company where the entire company love the products, love the services, if it's services company, and love the entire line of, I guess, C levels or the CEO? I think it's just very difficult. But when it's done properly, I think it's pretty crazy how the company can actually can explore things or can produce things.
Okay. Yeah, we'll get into that a little bit when we start talking about Ekrut a little later on, because I'm keen to understand your learnings. But let's focus a little bit more about Tesla. Okay, final question about Elon before we talk a little bit more about your time at Tesla, right? When he did the launch for the truck and he broke that window, what do you think that was intentional? Was that a publicity stunt, or do you actually think that something really went wrong, like it wasn't planned for and he decided to just wing it?
I think it went wrong. I really believe, I don't know, I think it went wrong, but he just someone who is strong and able to look vulnerable at the same time. So he doesn't look I'm wrong. He doesn't look like I'm embarrassed because he's just that genius. Like okay,
Mm,
well, it broke. I didn't know, but I know 100 ways of fixing things, or I know
mm,
1,000 ways of how to prevent this from happening. But apparently, one of my engineers failed to do that. But it was cool, right?
mm.
He just looked at it like, yeah, this is a easy peasy stuff to solve, and he didn't make a scene. He wasn't embarrassed. He
Yeah, yeah. I
wasn't.
mean,
Yeah.
it because right after that, right, everybody was, making conspiracy theories. Was it really staged or was it, something that went wrong? So I was very curious from someone who used to work at Tesla, whether you
Mhm.
would think that, that was manufactured or that was a real, by accident. So it sounds like you're saying by accident.
He embraced problems.
Okay.
He embraces problems like really, really, really well. He can
Mm,
cope with any kind of situations, any kind of people, from easy situations to the hardest possible situations you can imagine. He's
right.
just a strong person.
Okay.
From me, yeah.
All right. Okay. So now, sorry, I've sort of detoured a little bit to talk about Elon. So let's come back to you and your time in Tesla. Because when you were at Tesla, I think your role was more firmware and software. Was it still a lot to do with hardware? Because your time at a Honda or a Stanley Electric was more hardware, right? Was it still hardware in Tesla? It sounds like it was more software.
Yeah, it's more 60% manufacturing, lean manufacturing, supply chain and stuff. 20% coding, not developing the code for the products, but
Mm-hmm.
it's more developing the codes for the testing stations that enables a car to have a soul, if you call it a
Mm.
firmware. If somebody don't haven't really heard the term firmware, is basically for a car to have a soul.
It's the
Basically, we
OS for
built
the car,
all
right?
this. Yeah, it's basically a OS for the car. We basically just
Mm.
built all the stations to basically inject the OS into the car,
Mm-hmm.
and it's not just one OS, right? We have like multiple ECUs. The door has its own ECUs. The bumper has its own ECUs. And everything like including the giant TV, the steering wheel, the
Mm-hmm.
transmission, and the car, the brakes. Everything has its own ECU. So like maybe about 20 different OSs, if you would say. It's basically built off the same stack. I think C and C++,
Mm-hmm.
but when injected, it's like 20 different files, kind of merged into like one big package, 1 gig. I think it's almost 2 gig file of this OS for the
Mm.
car. So it's huge, and that's where my team kind of play in. Like we try to build all these stations to kind of let's inject the first and second ECUs, OSs, and then wait until it's kind of done, and then line or station number 5 gonna inject the ECU number 3 and 4, and so on.
Mm.
Mhm.
Okay, okay. So basically, the technology in Tesla is mainly driven by a brain that is only what, 2 gigs large?
Yeah, yeah,
Oh, yeah.
about.
Very interesting. Yeah. So for all you car fans and car freaks out there, and you're like thinking like, wow, I wonder how complicated it must be. It all fit into 2 gigs. That is amazing engineering right there. Okay, let's move on a little bit because I want to talk about some of the processes that you used, right? Because you mentioned that at least in your profile that you use processes such as the PDCA and the fishbone. Did Tesla employ processes such as the Toyota production system and Kanban and the lean, the idea of lean?
They did.
Okay.
They did. But I think it's only like kind of project based, because it's not Elon's call anyway. I think if Elon would know, I think he would say no.
Hmm.
But it's kind of based on the. I mean, they hired a lot of um, former experts in the industries, from GM, from Ford, from Toyota, of course, from
Hmm.
Honda in Ohio also. So a lot of people who still, I guess, like their religions are still like Japanese styles, but so they did hire a couple of consultants. I've seen them. and walking around the factory. But it's not usual. My team didn't do that.
Okay, yeah. Because one of the things I wanted to ask you was, are you using any of these processes in your current role at Ekrut? Mainly because, just for context for you and also our listeners, so a lot of tech companies today actually run agile methodologies, software development frameworks, which actually have their origins in the Toyota production system, like Kanban, the just in time. So I was very curious to know whether you've actually incorporated some of those practices that you've learned in Tesla into Ekrut.
Hmm. There are a couple differences though. Like yeah, we did use agile, we did use
Mm,
sprint, we did use that boards where you have backlog and then to do and then like do and finally like QA and then finally done or completed or
hmm.
resolved. So
Yep.
we do that kind of I guess that columns also.
Yep. The board.
One
Yep.
of the differences is in Tesla, and I wouldn't say it's the skill because I would never really say that like Asian students or the Asian grads um, learn less than those people who graduated from the overseas or basically outside Asia.
Mm,
Um, so I think the difference is mainly in the implementations, in the culture, because the implementations is also already standardized.
mm,
It's called Sprint or it's called
yep.
Scrum, whatever.
Yep.
Um, it's different when it comes to flexibilities of how things get done. Maybe since we both are product persons, we would say that it's im- it's very very harmful to basically inject a new ticket or new request in the middle of a sprint. Like once the sprint starts, just wait until the next sprint or something like
Mm,
that.
yep. Yep.
Over there now, like over here, probably like if we frequently do that, some people gonna be pretty messed up, or they will come up in the retrospective meeting and say, dude, please stop like putting things into the sprint in the middle of a sprint. Like just
Yep.
just stop intercepting.
Yep.
um no, in Tesla is extremely I wouldn't call it waterfall also because it's just weird. Like every single time we see a bug, every single time we think about a new improvement items, we would put the tickets in no meeting. It's just casual chatting or slacking,
Mm,
talking about the tickets, the detail and the expectations, the definition of done. Very, very normal.
okay.
But the intensity of it, the number of tickets actually being completed, and the time is actually completed, deployed to the staging for me to test, and actually giving a permission to be deployed to the production, that can be like within hours.
Wow.
Maybe, yeah, maybe like here we have like scheduled deployment like every Friday 11 p.m. That's where we deploy everything from the staging or beta,
Mm,
whatever you call it, to the productions. Over there, no. Like unless it's like pushing something into the car, that's where you kind of have to combine everything first into a package and then do more rigorous testing. But for manufacturing, hours, sometimes minutes. Like
wow.
we do some testing, yeah, and then we test on 10, 20 cars. We ask all the technicians that I can grab their hands on, and then hey, help me testing the door handle. Do not show up by themselves. Help me on that, and
Mm,
then we do some testing. We found a bug, and then we finally fix it, send it into the car. We have like a lot of staging cars or testing cars at the time, and
mhm.
then it looks good, and the next few minutes it's already alive in the production line, and then
Wow.
somebody gonna watch it over for 6-10 hours or
Okay. Okay.
yeah. It's just they get used to it, they're okay with getting bored because like in Indonesia, probably a lot of people are not into like administration stuff. Like, oh man, this is so like they just keep repetitive, right?
Mm,
Over there, some people would say something or would complain, but they know it's something that needs to be done, and it's 24/7, 365 over there. So you don't have to worry that, oh shit, tomorrow is weekend, nobody's
Mm,
there. No, it's 24/7 and 365. I'm
yeah,
not talking like the red dates and so on. There is
yeah,
no
yeah.
dates.
I mean, it is the production line, right? So,
Right.
and as we all know, like Tesla is, under tremendous pressure to keep up their production schedule. So I can imagine that it's definitely going to be 24/7, 365, like literally.
I would think Japan companies should have done that too, right? But I thought when I worked for Honda or
Mm,
for Stanley Electric for over almost 5 years, I really thought there wouldn't be any culture. There wouldn't be any intensities of like working intensities as what Japanese would do. I mean,
mm.
Japanese people committed well, that's what that's what we heard, right? They committed suicide because of working. They committed suicide because they got tired. They committed suicide because they don't get enough like a promotion or recognition. Sometimes not
Basically,
even
they're so
recognition.
focused on their. I mean, they're very dedicated to their craft or their work in that sense.
Exactly.
Mm, mm,
So when I came to Tesla, yeah, apparently it's nothing. I mean, in Stanley Electric, I got to work on a couple of nights, like 38 hours straight, no sleeping. In Tesla, VP could call you in the middle of the night, 1 a.m., 2 a.m., and this is VP. This is not your manager. VP called you, he called in, please come back. Your line is down. What the heck happened? And then you're gonna start to find out. And then you try to work remote first because you are in the middle of your sleeping. You just open your laptop, try to connect VPN and so on. What is going on? What is the error codes? Can I fix it on
mm.
my bed? So I don't have to go. And you can try to fix it for like 2 or 3 minutes before another 3 phone calls kind of ringing your and then finally, okay, I gave up. I don't think I
You-
can work under this pressure. Just change my clothes and then go to the
okay,
factory. Usually happen.
right.
Mhm.
Oh, and so if you're working for the company of your dreams, doing something, that you think is amazing, why did you decide to leave?
Hmm. It was quite tough decisions to make. Almost 10 years that I spent away from my parents, from my home. I decided to kind of reevaluate my life, per se, to how is things in Indonesia? How is the tech scene over there? Can I actually contribute more? So three main reasons. How can I bring all my knowledge into Indonesia and actually contribute more in the smaller companies? Number two is the family thing.
Hmm.
And then number three, the visa thing. So my visa is actually came to the end, and it's the decision between green card versus no green card will leverage or will increase comfort zones, will increase, what do you call it, like the opportunity cost or like the
Yeah,
sunk cost. Like once you get green card, why would you leave? Like
yeah,
that's even like a bigger questions. Like I was
yeah.
still a work visa, but it was a decisions whether, okay, if I got green card, I would probably wouldn't leave America for another, I don't know, good maybe 10 years maybe,
Yeah,
because it was too comfortable, right?
yeah.
And then green card, you can go anywhere. You can go to UK. Well, Malaysia got a pretty strong passport. Indonesia was like one of the weakest. So green card, you can go like anywhere. I love traveling, so
Yeah,
that's cool stuff.
yeah.
Um, but the idea of actually having green card is kind of scared me a little bit because the idea of actually I would probably resist to change, resist to move, resist to quit because it's
Mm,
just too awesome. So I decided not to take the green card, which then the byproducts is I gotta meet my parents, which the byproduct is basically let's do something in Indonesia and see what things can lead.
okay. So yeah, so I guess you decided, instead of taking the green card, which would make it even harder for you to leave. And be in that comfort zone, you decided that you were going to go back, or come back to Indonesia and see what you could do. So does that mean that you actually left Tesla and came back to Indonesia with no plan? Okay, sorry, not to say no plan, but without like your next job.
No, no, no. I already got my next job. Basically, the Ekrut CEO was my one of my closest friends in Ohio.
Right. Okay.
And
Okay.
then yeah, he started this company back in 2016. Asked me to join as the main founder. I I rejected because hey, I just got into one of my dream companies after I waited for this long. I said no, and then the following year he asked again,
Mm,
where the company actually started to transform from a really manual human process recruitment tech into something that is more platform driven, product driven, and something that can be digitized with or can be, I don't know what you call it, integrated with the data science. And then
mm,
where okay, well, everything kind of came at the same time. It's the 10 years thing, it's the 10-year mark, it's the visa mark, is the I guess the green card thing is perspective based. Maybe, Colin, you are okay with somebody pay $10,000 for you, and then like, I don't care what they think of me, I would still
mm.
leave anyway after 1 year.
Yep.
But I'm that kind of person who feel bad, who cares about self-image at the time. A lot of times, like, yeah, if I quit after a year, I think they would hate me so much. They already spend this much money, this much resources.
Mm,
I don't want to burn any bridges. Or at least I gotta work for them. I gotta dedicate my life at least for another 5 years. I'm that kind
mm,
of person. So I know that taking green card would have a stronger impact on me than
mm,
probably on somebody who is more, I guess, they call it like ignorant.
mm.
So I guess
Yeah.
it's not the same for all people.
Okay. And so the interesting part here is because when you were working, when you studied, you graduated, you worked for Stanley Electric, which was Honda basically, and Tesla. You were mainly doing more hardware, and you know traditional engineering. And you yourself said that you didn't really have any intention of joining the tech scene when you were in the States. And yet, when you came back to Indonesia, you've literally gone into the tech scene, right? Because you're dealing with a company, or rather, I'm not even dealing, you're heading a company where it is, platform based, product driven, trying to marry data science, all very tech. Yeah. So how was that transition? Was it an easy transition, or was that like something, a huge learning curve?
It's a huge learning curve. Even until right now, I'm not someone who understands data science much, and I'm not proud to say that. Also, I am that kind of engineer who is more generalist. Like, I'm
Mm,
not so into deep on every single pillars in engineering. I'm more kind of system person, flow chart kind of person,
mm,
being structured in things that I do. The learning curve was hard because of the industry. I don't think it's because of the product. Building the product is one thing. When there are a lot of ways actually you can build the product, if you are clear about the value that you are trying to bring, right?
hmm.
The product can be very flexible. But actually it's more that thing. Like, I spent my 8 years in the automotive. Like, I
Yeah.
didn't have experience in the recruitment, I didn't have experience in HR or
Mm,
human resource kind of management per se. um, that's where, even though it's good in one way, you bring a new whole different
perspective.
perspective
Yeah.
in the
Yeah.
industry, without actually bringing bias into the industry and not helping anything either. Yeah, that's probably where the adaptations process uh, probably probably hard.
Mm,
I
okay.
wasn't something that, like, I know this is not going to work because I tried it before, or I couldn't ever say that. Like, I couldn't even say, um, this company had done this kind of product to match people to other companies, but they had this problem, and I know how to fix it. No, like I didn't know any of that. Like,
Right.
oh, okay, so something is messed up. I don't know why. Why would people
Yeah.
not come to interview? I thought people should come. I thought people should be like pretty into interview invites or whatever. So I guess when it comes to dealing those issues, yeah, I mean
Yeah.
cars cannot reject of being built. Like cars cannot being like cannot refused of being sold. Human can.
Yeah. So you suddenly had to deal with, from dealing with machinery and non-living entities to very living entities which have brains of their own.
Mm, mm, mm.
Mm. And so I guess the question that comes after that then is, so what did you see about Ekrut that made you also want to come? I mean, take the job when you came back, because you're saying that domain knowledge is something that you didn't have, but of course, domain knowledge can be learned. So I don't think that's a problem, and you've obviously proven through your career that you're a pretty smart guy. So yeah, what was it about Ekrut that sort of made it something you would want to be part of?
Back in 2013, we were talking about the CEO and I was still a young dudes, and we were talking about um, this job street scene being the largest, I guess, job portal at that point, and we were seeing that things are very manual. Like people like try to you call it like shop the job postings and then try to
Mm,
apply like one by one. Like how can we how can we try to improve this? How can we try to, I guess, yeah, people would call it like revolutionize, but I wouldn't call it. I think that's an overstatement. Um, the industry.
mm,
So, what made this thing interesting at that point was because I wanted to try something new.
mm,
The idea of actually working in one industry, I worried would limit kind of my knowledge and everything, and I just want to see in a different industry whether it's gonna take me to the different whole new level, or actually, what if I actually really 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 love automotive, like after all. But at that point, it was hard because I burned out quite badly
yep,
in Tesla.
mm,
I maybe like from 1,000 days, I only had like a 2 weeks off, like 2 weeks off without actually looking at the work phones. So it was quite hard at
mm,
some level. It's kind of hard to relate because I'm sure a lot of people these days are really really um, like energetic, or
yeah,
yeah, I don't care about the hours. I'm still single. I don't have anybody at home. I can work
mm.
40 hours,
Yeah,
60 hours. I don't care.
but
Yeah,
you're still human after all, right? So everyone
right. You
needs to
say
recharge, right?
right. So that's why
Okay.
I decided to try something new,
Mm,
new products, new industry, new people, especially in
yeah.
Indonesia.
Okay.
Mhm.
And so when you joined Ekrut, did you join immediately as the chief product officer?
Yes.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit more about that, because again, um, jumping into product management is well, many people have already said that it's not that easy. You've actually jumped a few levels straight to the chief product officer role, so you've literally gone into a very senior leadership position into an industry that you have said that you're not that familiar with. So yeah, how has that been? Suddenly becoming the chief product officer for, I guess you would call it a tech company. I definitely see Ekrut as a tech company.
Hmm. What are the biggest differences that I see between working in the US and how things are going in Indonesia? I'm not gonna call Malaysia would actually do the same
Mm,
thing.
mm,
Is one of the things that we usually call hierarchy, right? And
mm,
I had this problem, or actually like how people see hierarchy. Where in Indonesia, well, I get promoted to, let's say, manager. That means I can work 2 hours less, or maybe oh well, I get promoted to director. Maybe I can
Mm,
work 4 hours less now because I'm this high, and you cannot say no to me. If I say something, you got to do it. If you challenge me, then you're out. If you challenge me, that means you are dumb because I am the smartest in the team or in the company.
mm,
And that kind of culture that I want to kind of not change it 90-degree, but I kind of want to have the other way around, the 180-degree version of it. I never thought that I am the smartest man in the team, especially in the even in the automotive world. So the basic things that I actually bring into the table was the culture. Was the culture actually people had to be able to be open, give aspirations, and has no fear in actually giving feedback, challenging the boss, and everything. And I try to spend as much time in the office, knowing that the hierarchy doesn't mean that I can work less or I can actually talk
mm,
more. I
yeah,
don't or listen less or whatever.
mm,
That it just means that we're gonna work together. We're gonna work. Actually, I have to work harder to make sure that every one of you are actually can give enough feedback and then build your own roadmaps. And at the end of the day, I'm gonna have to revise everything. Try to make sure that everything are built to the founder visions and
mm.
everything. So I think that's kind of the difference that I try to build in Ekrut. Like I try
Okay.
to build a necessary things needed to build an engineering team or a product team where everybody has to be able to be independent
Mm,
in a lot of levels.
yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah.
Did you, what about the hard skills then? Did you feel that, going into a CPO role, that you had
Mm-hmm.
to sort of play catch up with some of the hard skills that, let's say, someone who has more experience in product management would have? Like, for example, typical product managers who sort of go up the ladder, in terms of seniority, they would have understood things like, prioritization techniques, and frameworks for, how you can, best negotiate, or things like that. So do you feel like, you switching from automotive straight into a tech company and taking the senior leadership role in product, did you feel like you had to play catch up with, the hard skill side of things?
Yeah, I think definitely. Definitely with the prioritization
Mm,
frameworks and stuff. I still did a lot of problems even until right now. It's not something that I'm actually perfect at. But luckily, at this point, I mean, the one thing that I tried to build or I tried to experiment was the idea of actually having a balance between the top-down approaches and the bottom-up approaches versus data-driven. Well, I guess data-driven and customer-driven, you can call it like under the bottom-up approach too. So I try to have a good balance between the bottom-up and also top-down. Top-down is in my language is defined as a head and above, look at some kind of chart or look at some competitor
mm,
or dream about something and then came up with some ideas and proposed it to the team. um, so I guess um, yes, I'm trying to, I guess, play um, the experimenting with the right amount of bottom up. Actually, I need or the team needs to do every quarter. And actually, when you work at the level of the, I guess, seniority, I guess
mm,
everybody is like alpha, right? Everybody has their own ideas. Everybody want to feel heard.
yep.
um, so sometimes having the ideas of actually uh, objective about the roadmap is actually getting complex. It's actually getting more personal than actually the framework itself. The framework can actually go to somewhere if you have enough data or if you have enough transactions in our language. But
Mm,
since we are really, really niche still, we don't have the 500 million points like Facebook that they can just like they can do, I don't know, A/B testing in 2 minutes. And
Not
no,
many
yeah,
companies will be able to do that level of A/B testing to begin with. Anyway, yeah, Google can do 40 different shades of, I think, what, green or blue for their testing, but yeah, I don't think many companies get that privilege. So.
right. So I guess, yeah, I guess things are actually getting more complex in our world, because yes, I guess you can do a lot of different types of prioritization, impacts versus efforts, and I guess McKinsey people do that, and other stuff for product people usually use. And but when more heads actually came into the considerations, things are not uh, and that's what I like, actually. And actually, this could also be bad, because I'm not someone who likes to be objective at all times. I'm this kind of person who likes to be, I guess, I just want to build something different. I just want to be like that. Like, I don't care if it's like, if it doesn't work, I will give it like 2 months and we will try something else. So each time we look at competitors, like, I don't want to be that. Like, I try to do something else. Maybe LinkedIn didn't do that because of that, but LinkedIn had millions of dollars to do some research. Yeah, that's fine. Maybe Indonesia is a different market and different beast from America. So that's why following frameworks is not always my culture. Back in the States, back in Tesla, and also I kind of carried it over to Ekrut. It doesn't work. It doesn't always work every single time or with every single leaders. It's not some kind of religions that product people would usually, I guess, believed in, because things are getting more subjective. That means there's so many, I don't know, there's so many uncertainties. So, but I don't know, somewhat I can live like that. I kind of prefer to do things on my own, and then have everybody to be creative in their own ways.
Yeah. So how do you then make sure that, given your background and the way that you like to work as well, how was it like for you trying to build up credibility within the organization? Because again, obviously, when you went in as the chief product officer with, if I'm looking at your CV, you've got like zero experience working in product and you're coming in as a chief product officer. What did you need to do to build that kind of credibility to say, I'm worthy to sit in this role, or or was it just a case of, guess what, I'm here, live with it? So.
Hmm. Um, I'm probably not a good person to answer that, because after 105 days, all the original team actually quit or resigned. We still had a good relationship right now. So I really didn't think they actually quit because of my management style or the way I at the company. I try to work as hard as I can to actually talk to every single person every single employee in the company at that point. I try to gather information, try to stay low, as humble as possible, because it's apparently title is something that is like being seen as a sacred in Indonesia's corporates. Like, you're a chief, you mean you're A, I mean you're a B. I think I don't know, that kind of prejudices are not helping me at all in any way. Maybe they tend to be more quiet around me. Maybe they try. So I try to kind of try to banish that barrier as much as possible, especially with cross-functional team, because my team at that point was still 2. Right now it's about 10. So it's just actually building the morale and presence with different teams. I didn't have that kind of problem where you are not worthy and whatnot. So But when I actually built my team from scratch again after those 90 days, so actually like everybody's gone. Yeah, they all still here. Like we have zero. We have only one actually quit last month,
Mm.
but so I hope it was a good sign.
So would it be fair to say that when you joined, you brought, you brought a difference in terms of culture and perhaps how you wanted things to go. And after weathering the initial storm, you've got pretty much the team that you want to be sort of driving this product for Ekrut. Would that be fair to say?
Yeah, I think so. I think
Mm,
after I hired my kind of first the troops in the early 2019. Um, they are great. They are great people. I
yeah.
never got a chance to actually work with Indonesian employees up until that point.
Yeah.
Um, they're all great. They just need some kind of guide and level of freedom that probably most managers did not over them before they started working for Ekrut. I guess that kind of culture, that kind of empathy, I'm trying to just bring into the table. I didn't
Mm,
have, like you said, I didn't bring any domain knowledges or domain product frameworks
mm,
knowledges or experience to the table. Also,
yeah.
so I'm trying to build. Dude, you are all gonna be much smarter than me. I'm gonna be much experienced than me in terms of all kind of the products and systems and frameworks that we will be using for the next multiple years.
Mm,
Um, so we'll be on this together. Do not be afraid to kind of say I'm wrong or you don't know shit and stuff.
mm,
It's totally fine. We'll uh, just be creative in whatever you're doing. I will provide the guide. I'll provide the some kind of GPS, but you guys gonna build the car.
yeah.
Mhm.
W- would it be a fair statement to say that, from what I've been hearing, that you're more what you bring to the table for Ekrut from a product perspective is more the flexibility and culture of trying to make everyone be heard and also be independent. So it's more on the cultural shift more than on, product, the traditional product leadership. Would that be a fair statement?
I also tried. I mean, we tried to build the flow, the product development flow, as early as possible.
Mm,
Definitely with the help with a lot of extra hands from my former or the earlier product managers.
mm,
Definitely everything that I can or that a product team would usually have, I try to build it as early as possible. I wouldn't wait. Because it's not good anyway.
mm, mm,
For sprint, we try. I don't know. We experimented a lot of kind of sprints. Like okay, let's do sprints every week. Okay, shit, a lot of carryover. Let's do 2 weeks now. Let's do 2 weeks. Okay, 2 weeks. But the sprint meeting it becomes too long because there are too many tickets. It's the double the tickets from the previous. That means the meeting will be like extremely long. A lot of people are actually just sitting, not doing anything, just listening to the
mm,
assignee or the reporter. Okay, let's have some sprint planning. Let's talk about the sprint planning for all the questions that you might have. But assigning points, assigning the engineers, let's just do it in the sprint meetings. And then,
mm,
okay, well, a lot of complaints are actually being kept or actually not being laid out on paper. We don't know what's going on. Well, actually, let's do retrospective meeting every quarter. Oh shit! Okay, actually, there are more of them. Okay, let's do like 1 month. Okay,
mhm,
I think we need to do more often. Let's do it like every single sprint ended. Okay, I think this is good. Okay, who's gonna do all there's so many points or there's so many items that need to be resolved or needs to be taken care. Um, which one is actually more priorities like this is like everything is actually so actually it's when everything like the sprint and this when I led the engineering team or the product team doing a sprint with the engineering team is one problem and also it's gonna be and it's also like triple the problem if actually there are three different sprints. The sprints with the product with the data scientist and also the sprints with the UI UX engineers and the researchers. So there are three different sprints, three different emotions, three different, I guess, theme. Um, just try to bring everybody to work together. I guess is another focus that I try to kind of bring into the table, despite the flow or the I guess the flow of the development is already in place.
Okay. So let's talk a little bit about what you've experienced so far, in terms of, if I were to ask you, hey Nico, what advice would you give to anyone who is trying to break into a product leadership role? What advice would
Mhm.
you give them based on your experience?
Hmm. If someone who just graduated from a
Now, what?
school
No,
or
no, not just graduated, but someone who's probably been a product manager, perhaps, and
Mhm.
now they're moving into a more leadership role where you're now, not just talking about specific features. You're now thinking strategic. Trying to talk to manage upwards to your stakeholders, to the CEO. Yeah, more in a leadership position within product. What advice would you give them? Having been someone who went straight into the role and having brought a different kind of experience, from your time at Tesla.
hmm, maybe it's gonna be different, like country to country. In Indonesia,
Yeah, I mean, sorry,
probably
let's contextualize it to let's say someone in Indonesia, for example.
okay,
So
okay.
someone within the
I,
product scene in Indonesia. Yeah.
yeah, I really hope it's gonna be somewhat similar to Malaysia or Singapore or neighboring countries. Um, Speak up is number one. Try to speak up in the professional level. Don't be someone who sits by the door, sits at the main chair. Um, a lot of people that I met are usually, and also it's probably uh, because of the culture also, but people tend to be undervalue themselves. I don't know, it happens also in Malaysia, but a lot of people, especially local graduates, they tend to undervalue, even though they're extremely genius, they're extremely
Mm,
smart, and they have more knowledge than anybody who's talks more probably in the meeting room. I really hope those people will try to speak up more,
mm,
because I think the world will take care of themselves. Like, do not be afraid of actually being laid off, for example. That's why I try to highlight the idea of actually professional. So try to speak up professionally in the level of what people want to hear, not what you want to say. Um, because empathy or emotional intelligence is under somewhat undervalued in probably in our country.
mm,
America starts to see it as a tool, uh, to kind of get to the level where they want to. Not the salesy kind of, not the
mm.
salesy,
Not
not
the
the
fake
over,
version. Yeah.
not the vague version, but it is something that you are actually smart. You actually know something. You actually know what possibly could go wrong, and then
Mm,
you actually decided not to say anything because you will hurt your head of products.
mm,
Then yeah, I mean, try to speak up, try to have one-on-one may not be some kind of culture also in the non-tech companies
yeah.
or non-startup, um, I guess newer companies. Yeah, try to have those kind of one-on-ones would definitely help, not to actually lick their asses, but actually is a form of that you actually care, you actually try to find out what miscommunication could potentially happen in the future, but you try to, okay, by the way, we had this 14 different meetings over the past week. I just want to make sure that we kind of align off everything, and I know that you're busy. So I already prepared a couple slides, and I hope it can kind of sum up everything that I need to say for the next 20 minutes. Something like that would probably help, right? You are consciously aware that taking someone else's time in the weekend or after work hours are not something that's fun. So you make sure that you try to convey the message that you actually care about people's time, and then you try to prepare all the message and meeting minutes that you want to kind of go over with her, and yeah.
Okay. Okay. Last question with regards to this before we go to the final segment. So you've had the privilege or the opportunity of studying in the States, working there, building a career there, and then deciding to come back. So if there was anyone perhaps from the States who's considering a career in product in Indonesia, or maybe even an Indonesian who's built a career in product in the US, thinking of coming home, what advice would you give to them?
I In the past 3 months, or since this pandemic happened, I jumped to a lot of random calls like that. Again, everything kind of started from the LinkedIn messages, and then they want to talk about the tech scene in Indonesia, and we just in the Google Meet. The message, well, talk to someone. Definitely talk to someone who knows what's going on, not just what's going on with the company, or definitely try to find someone who can provide a really objective informations about the country, about the company, about the salary, because the salary will never match what you own or what you earn over there. If it's the US, then it's the US.
Yeah.
Unless usually it's gonna be some drop. So talk to those people, because and hopefully those people will be eager to help also, and make sure that that actually returning home is something that you want, not something that your parents want, or because you are being FOMO. Being FOMO is totally fine too, I guess, because being FOMO is definitely like you're aware of something and then you just want to be part of it, not because of like some pressure that you actually have to return. Because it's different. It's different. California or Cupertino, where I lived, is definitely different from Jakarta. Did I actually ever regret living in America? No. Did I actually miss America? Very, very much, especially the clean air. Pretty much it.
Okay. Okay. Thank you so much. It's been really interesting from that perspective. So let's go to the final segment of the show, which is the song. And this is, as I always tell people in every episode, this is my favorite part of the show. And again, your song choice is so interesting. So I would like to give you the opportunity to actually, so introduce the song and why you chose the song.
Yeah, so I love Israel because he's Hawaiian, because he's cool. He just created a lot of cool songs. The songs that people would usually care less and less and less and less these days. It's about the song to actually enjoy the life that you actually already possess, or you already earned it. So try to like everything, whatever you do, it's probably like, let's say it's a COVID, or you got laid out, or your work is devastating. It's probably just some like cloud, like always at the back of the cloud, which should always be some sun, should always sometimes hopefully rainbow, and in a lot of cases. And finally, I really, really, really love Hawaii. From all the states that I actually enjoy in the states, in the United States, Hawaii is number one, Alaska is number two. So enjoy, because it's a cool place. It's a cool place. I really enjoy from everything, like inside outside of my body when I went to Hawaii for a couple of times.
Nice, nice. So yeah, so the song that you chose was "Somewhere Over the Rainbow" by Israel Kamakawiwoʻole. Gosh, I don't even know how to pronounce his name.
I
People
didn't
just
know.
call him Iz, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So
Mm.
it's a very interesting song. And what because I've never heard of him before. So when you said you wanted that song, I actually went check him out. He's a huge guy playing a really really small ukulele. So
Yeah,
it's
and he's dead, so yeah, it's kind of sad
yeah, it
because of
is. It is. That was really really sad. He died really young, right? He was like only 38 or something.
yeah, yeah, I think so, huh?
Yeah, but I think you're right in that sense because the song he's got this really silky, smooth voice.
Uh-huh.
And yeah, and the song, he played it so simple. There were no other instruments. It was just the ukulele and his voice, and I thought it was amazing. So that
Totally.
was great. Yeah. So thank you so much, Nico, for being on the show. As I
Hmm.
mentioned earlier, I think this was a very different episode because you're one of the few people I've interviewed who've not only jumped straight into a sort of product leadership role, but you came from a very different world in that sense. The industry that you were in and the industry that you are now is so different. So to hear the things that you say and how you articulate it is definitely not something that I'm used to. But it was definitely very interesting to hear. So before we go, I wanted to just ask you, Nico, do you have anything that you would like to say to the viewers or listeners on the show? Any pearls of wisdom or, anything that you want to share?
Don't be afraid to try something new. We are all different. All have also different life missions or purposes in this world. Just do not live other people's lives. Yeah.
All right.
Mm.
Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, that was Niko Questera. He is the CPO of Ekrut, and he's been on the Product Uncensored show. Just as we log off, just wanted to repeat what I said in the beginning. I really hope you've had a good week, and please don't let things keep you down. And listen to the song that Nico recommended because I think that would definitely bring a smile to your face. Until our next episode, take care and bye bye.